great playing with you again, John.
Yeah, absolutely. You too.
Thanks. So we talked a little bit about some bass players. You mentioned the six-string bass and its origins. Why don't we talk about that a little bit?
Okay. One of my favorite subjects, even though I'm playing a 5 today. Basically, it comes down to Anthony Jackson.
Okay.
Because early on, there were some attempts before Fender made the bass 6, which was neat, but it was tuned like a guitar, just an octave down.
Okay.
Way cool instrument. I really want one.
Yeah.
But it really came to Anthony Jackson, who was playing. He had one of his basses. He basically tuned it B-E-A-D.
Okay.
So he dropped it a 5th because he realized, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
And I need this range down here. So he had a regular range and then he had the lower range.
Yeah.
And he was, his thing has always been, it should have been 6 all along.
Okay.
Yes, it should have been 6 all along. Yeah, that's just it. So the story that I have heard is he went to Carl Thompson first, and Carl went, no. Then he ended up going to Ken Smith.
Okay.
And so they started working on them. There were a couple iterations.
So they made prototypes.
Yeah.
Designed.
I've actually done repairs on what is, he calls it a contrabass guitar, which I think is a great, perfect name for it.
Right.
I've actually worked on number 2.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's prototype number 2. The neck is massive. It is really thick. It's really heavy. I can understand why they moved forward because that thing is almost unplayable. It's so big.
Wow.
But it sounds really, really cool. But at the time, so at this time, other makers are starting to pay a little bit of attention to it. And this is when Vinny Federa was making the stuff for Ken Smith.
There's a big name in basses.
Absolutely. So then that relationship came apart and Vinny moved down the road, but then ended up still making them for Ken. There's some vagary in the history there. But Anthony started working with Vinny, because he was the one who was making them all along anyway, to really refine the idea of the contrabass guitar.
Nice.
And then everybody else went, okay, that is cool.
It is. It is. So 5-string bass adds, 5 notes?
Yeah.
To the range of the bass. And if you ever end up working as a bassist in theater pits, anything like that, a lot of times they have those notes written in.
Oh yeah.
So it's almost a necessity to really play a 5-string bass.
Yeah, yeah. I can't imagine doing pit work with less than a 5.
Right.
Honestly, it just 6 would be better.
Right.
Yeah. Look at the electric bass book for West Side Story, which nobody plays, because Leonard Bernstein was looking at the electric bass and said, "What's the range?" And somebody explained the range. So he wrote for the entire range of the instrument on that part. It's almost unplayable.
Yeah.
But
I've played that production.
Yeah, and everybody uses the upright book.
I played on guitar though.
Right. Yeah. It's there's some wild stuff in that.
Yeah.
It's fun. I love playing that show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would think at least a 5 with a low B. It's like both my main electric upright and my regular acoustic upright are 5s with a high C.
Okay.
Because I solo a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, 5 is great. You can do it with a high C. I have seen a lot of jazz guys will do that.
So looking for maybe soloing.
Yeah, if they're soloing or they're doing more interesting stuff where you just don't need those bottom 5 notes. But to me, you and I are talking about this off camera, it's this way is where it makes the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Having that, being able to go, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
But instead of having to play a G there, I can play it here.
Okay.
So, you know, all of a sudden I've got a tenth, and I'm 2 octaves up. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm an octave and a fifth. Anyway, so that's the fifth. I'm thinking 6th string.
Okay.
6th string, then yes, you would be 2 octaves up.
Yeah.
Right there.
Wow. Nice.
That's really convenient. And I've had discussions with guys who ask me why I play 6 mostly.
Okay.
I explained there is a great difference in the quality of the note depending on where you play it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so if I play that there, they sound like 2 different things, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I have my choice of sort of tonal envelope is the way I think about it.
Yeah.
You know, this is a brighter, more open sound. That's a tighter, darker sound.
Yeah.
Which on some things, like if you need the notes to be short and kind of thick sounding, you know, you can
do that.
Just,
yeah.
And especially if you know, do the Anthony Jackson mute and play with your thumb thing, which sounds. Then it kind of sounds. It's still a little darker, a little deader. So
yeah,
it's more tonal options. You're not just stuck with. Yeah, same thing. Like, you know, if I played that G, and then I'm there. I can't even think today. You know, there's this sounds terrible. But yeah, that's 2 different sounds.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I on guitar I try to. Oftentimes I'll go with the longer string length if I can, just work like that because I kind of prefer. But I notice watching different guitarists online, a lot of times they'll play up here in this position, but it's a different sound. But it's not really right or wrong. It's just
Well, you also get more reach.
Right, you have more reach because the frets are closer together.
Yeah, the 4 or 5 frets before the octave. So if you're coming up about 1/3 of the way on the neck.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
you can.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So I moved into playing 6th string, and my challenge there was that the tuning, the association of the number 6 somehow. I couldn't break away from guitar tuning.
No, you just stuck with that. That's right, because you tune your 6.
Yeah, so I tuned the 6. I kind of just gave up because I would practice all the 4ths, which I love that, and it makes so much sense. But then when I would go over to the guitar, then I'm missing everything by a fret when I get to the 2nd string. So I'm just like that took so much getting used to, just standard tuning,
right?
That I'm just like kind of stuck with that, or I have to just do a really big mind-bending adjustment.
To reprogram you, because I think you know there's that apocryphal story that Alan Holdsworth said that he wished he'd figured out that he could have just tuned to 4ths.
Yeah.
He's like, guitar should be in 4ths. That's just.
Yeah, I think that would be really, really, really cool. There's a trade-off there, and we think about like the ukulele, you know, and how some of the notes, like if you were to play, you know, this kind of voicing, it does lay kind of comfortably for chords in some instances. If you had a chord like, how about like C major 7, like the first inversion,
right?
Kind of a pretty chord. But then when you go up here, then it becomes a little bit harder to play because this one is over here, this one. And then when you get down here, it's like, and then fortunately these strings are closer. But if you wanted to play it here, it's just like, whoa,
oh, it's huge.
You know, it's like, yeah. So it is kind of a trade-off. But as far as melodic playing and bass playing, in a sense, it's very melodic.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because you're playing single notes and they're low, but you're creating melodies and lines.
Yeah, it's like we talked about in the last video. It's like one of my thing that makes me so happy on a jazz gig is when I can come up with a bass line that is its own standalone melody. You can strip the band away and
Yeah,
it would
yeah, I
just
remember
be
you talking about
itself,
that.
but it supports what's going on in the band, the chord structure and the soloist and
Yeah.
whoever. So it's doing two things at once, and that's just so cool.
Yeah. So speaking of guitar and bass and all this, so sometimes we play with a pick and sometimes we don't play with a pick. And I've known some guitar players who don't use the pick at all. Usually they tend to be more classical, but I have even known some jazz guys who just really prefer to use fingers. And
Well, Kevin Eubanks, just because he's a fan of Wes Montgomery.
yeah, okay.
So it's playing with his
The
thumb.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we were talking again off camera about Matteo Mancuso. Look this guy up.
Oh, yeah.
Boy. Yeah, no pick at all. It's basically a modified classical guitar technique.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes you question the use of a pick.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I kind of like the use of the pick on the bass. I'm trying this out on my latest recording.
Yeah, which sounds great. We were listening to it, and it
Thanks.
sounds terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it's a great, like I said, it sounds a bit like Steve Swallow,
Yeah.
which is a really cool tonality.
It is. Yeah.
But having the front end of the notes so clear.
That's what I think. Recording wise, it's kind of cool like that.
Mhm.
I think for live playing, I don't know. I mean, just kind of laying out this bed that doesn't need a firm attack is kind of nice. But
Yeah,
I
but
don't
there's
know.
the faster the tune, the tighter everything has to be.
Mhm.
And then if you're playing an instrument with a long attack,
Yeah.
it's like I have an NS electric upright that's set insanely low. I
Okay.
love that low action, and it uses the NS modern strings.
Yeah.
It's all growl. It's just very long.
Uh-huh.
That bass does not go fast.
Okay.
It's just not. I have to do all kinds of elaborate muting things
Yeah.
to get it to behave. So it limits its purpose, but it's really good at what it does.
Yeah.
But otherwise, this as the faster you play, the tighter everything has to get.
Yeah.
Which is one of those things where it does come in handy to shift up here.
Okay.
Because if you're playing at
Yeah.
It's a little
just closer
deader.
in, yeah.
it's a little tighter. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember. I've mentioned Walter Namath a couple times, but he was telling me that this is your kind of chop builder
Mhm.
area, he would say, and then over here it's just easier.
Yeah,
So-
that's where this is where you learn. That's where you work.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is kind of cool.
But yeah, we're both working on the pick thing on bass. I'm trying to,
Are you okay?
yeah, because it's like for this thing we did earlier. It's just trying to get that. I've got to get my sort of single picking speed up, because
Yeah.
otherwise it's just a lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's fun. But yeah, I need to just sit and go through the combinations.
So do you work on alternate picking at all, or is it
That's
mainly?
really what I'm working on.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because just going,
Mhm.
okay, yes, you can do that, but it cuts your speed in half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I'm really want to being able to do that sort of thing. So I've been working on going like thirds and then minor thirds and
Nice.
kind of thing. But really working on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is so very fruitful to work on alternate picking. And musically, I think when you have the down and it's a heavy beat,
Mhm.
that sound works nicely.
Yeah.
With that, and then having the upstroke being maybe somewhat lighter. I mean, of course, with technique, we can work on getting that all sound very even. I mean, that's a goal too.
That's you listen to Anthony Jackson play with a pick,
Yeah.
it is dead even.
Yeah.
You can't tell. A lot of times, you can't tell what he's using.
Mm.
Is he using his fingers? Is he doing the muted thing with the thumb? Or is he using a pick?
It's so consistent. He's just got that technique so
Yeah,
down.
it's just so solid.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Nice.
Just because you'll be listening and go, oh, that's a really nice fingered style. And you look and, no, that's a pick.
It's
Right.
actually playing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really want to do that. And if you look at like Carol Kay, the great Carol Kay, played absolutely everything with a pick.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Yeah.
She came from guitar and ended up playing bass. It works.
It does, and it was a weird experience. So I went to record the bass lines on this tune that's hopefully come out very soon, the Red One by Pat Metheny, and I was playing, finger picking, and just looked over, saw a pick laying there, and pick it up, and then it was like kind of the aha moment. It's like, wow, that's the sound. That's what I want for this.
Really good. Now the question is, which part of the pick were you using?
So
the pointy bit or the shoulder?
I actually used the pointy bit. When I've experimented with that before, I used more of the softer slope.
Yeah.
Which I liked, and that was my initial thing. I thought that would be kind of the way to go.
Yeah,
but
because
for this, I used the pointy end. I don't know why.
It is
I
kind
did
of
that.
it's a slightly more indistinct attack,
Mhm.
isn't it? Don't you
Yeah,
think? This-
yeah, it is.
Instead of,
Rounder.
yeah, I mean, there's that, which definitely has that click attack to it, or
Yeah.
which is, yeah, because you're just coming at it with so much more meat here.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to find good picks. I have a friend who loves nylon picks.
Okay. So, pick that I use is the this is, what is it called? Blue chip
Mhm.
pick, and they're really ridiculously expensive. But of course,
That's not one of the ceramic ones, is it?
no, it's some material. I think the story that I remember hearing or reading is that there was a guy or a company who came up with a very strong material,
Mhm.
and then was like, wow, this is a really strong material. What do we do with it? And they started making picks as just like a side thing, and it caught on a little bit. So I first heard about it through some friends who are into bluegrass playing and acoustic music, and they were saying, oh, so they had them, and they were saying, oh, we should get Jim a pick for his birthday, because they're like pretty expensive. They're like $35. And then they were telling me this, and they said, well, but we didn't know what kind of shape, because they have all these different shapes. And so anyway, my wife got one for me, and then I became very concerned about losing it.
Right.
So I got a little pouch, and I actually trained myself for 3 months to not lose this pick. Like,
Yeah.
I just trained my hand to, like, it goes on this little pick pouch, which is right over there, and that's just where it goes.
Yeah.
Like, I deliberately trained myself to just habituate to that,
Yeah.
and then I did. I'd be like, I wonder where my pick is, and that's where it is, because your mind does things.
Yeah, it's
don't
on
know.
a gig. At the end of the gig, you just want to get out.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like Delrin or something. I have to look that up because I know.
You want to try it?
What's that feel like? Wow.
But yeah, they have all sorts of different
There's-
shapes, and I
there's
think Julian Lodge is endorsing them.
That's a really good feeling pick, isn't it?
Yeah, the sound is really good, and I've experimented with some other kind of pricey picks. I've never found something that just has that sound to it.
That's. Oh, yeah.
It's kind of night and day.
That's not subtle, is it?
No.
That's. Damn it.
Yeah. I think you just blew 35 bucks.
Yeah, probably. Because I know there's. I think Anthony Jackson might be using those.
Okay.
Because I know for a long time there's this company that makes. It's like industrial ceramic,
Okay.
and they're glazed with this, I don't know, like aerospace grade stuff,
Yeah.
protect the space shuttle.
Okay.
It's kind of the same thing. It's just
Yeah.
incredibly strong,
Yeah.
perfectly smooth. That's
Pretty cool.
wow. That is not subtle.
Yeah.
But then I look at God, all of a sudden I am completely brain dead. Carl's Benevent, who plays with the pick,
Okay.
and he does a hybrid technique, which is my end goal.
Okay.
Is
Nice.
really to be able to
Yeah.
being able to
Nice.
do that because it's lets you get the very Spanish thing going.
Yeah. Great.
But he plays with one of those giant triangular picks
Okay.
because he can almost, they're almost the size of like an oud pick, which is that very strange shape.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he really gets his hand
Really on there.
on
Yeah.
it, so he's got this huge amount of contact and a little tiny bit coming down, which you can't see on the screen.
Yeah.
But so you watch him play, and he's just flying because there's
Nice.
no flex.
Yeah.
But then he can, he's doing these rolls where he's
Oh, yeah.
kind of,
Yeah. Nice.
I am so sad that I really need to work. But okay, that's annoying.
Pretty
That
cool.
is so good.
So if you're looking for picks, I don't have an endorsement with them or any connection at all. But other than I own some of these, and
nice blue chip people.
yeah, exactly.
Hey, you could send them on. We'll review them right here.
Yeah.
It's-
And if any of you have ever used them, leave a comment or let us know what picks you use.
yeah. What's your favorite pick?
So the classic Fender Medium,
Mm-hmm.
and do you use hybrid picking or no picking at all?
Yeah. I think for me, honestly, the hybrid picking is really the next thing.
Yeah,
It-
I should work on that a little more too. But I use hybrid picking for doing chords. So sometimes I'll play a chord and I want the notes to ring at the same time.
Right.
So I'll just do that so that it feels kind of tight in the rhythm
Mhm.
section. So I'll just kind of do like these little 3-note chords or something.
Yeah. It's funny. I was years ago. I saw a thing about high life music.
Okay.
African high life.
Yeah.
Which has a really, like King Sunny Ade and those guys, they have a really unique guitar sound.
Mm-hmm.
Very bright.
Yeah.
And they play like that.
Okay.
And what I was reading is they're either doing like, everything all at once,
Yeah.
or it's on an upstroke.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Downstrokes are apparently very, very rare.
Really?
Yeah, but that being able to, because I think that the idea was that otherwise it becomes,
Okay.
and it kind of mushes across, and high life music is very brisk.
Okay. Yeah.
It's moving.
So you get the higher sounds first. I
Mm-hmm.
could see that. I
Yeah.
could see how that might be appealing.
Yeah, it when you really start thinking about it, you're like, okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So hybrid picking is basically when you take the pick and then you use 2 fingers or a fourth. I will occasionally use that, not really on purpose, but occasionally I'll use the 4th finger just if I want to get 4 notes.
Right.
And that's really the only kind of time that I use that.
Mm-hmm.
But hybrid and then picking, and then one thing that's kind of cool too, which I've seen, I think Schofield does this, and maybe we've talked about it a little bit, which is taking the thumb and then doing the index
Mm-hmm.
up, sort of doing. It's kind of like if you took a pick inside out and had to do
Well,
sides to it.
it's kind of half classical technique.
Mhm.
It's like you just take away this half of the hand.
Yeah.
Or you'll see flamenco guys will do that.
Yeah.
But I've talked about Dominic DiPiazza before,
Okay.
and that's how he plays.
Yeah.
He does this, and he just so insanely fast. You really
Nice.
wonder how his brain goes that quickly.
Yeah.
Hadrian Farad
Okay.
plays this is sort of his go-to
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
And he'll switch to this when he needs that sound. You know, he'll, all right, I'll show you on the camera. So instead of, you know, you can do this or you can do this. It's two different sounds.
Yeah.
I can play quickly that way, but I need to, I'm learning how to anchor this arm.
Yeah. One thing I'm trying to do with this technique is, which I haven't worked at it a whole lot, but I try to do a rotation
Mm-hmm.
so that I try to keep these somewhat stable.
Okay. Yeah, because
And then I just make like little compensation. The movements are a little more like compensations
Mhm.
for whatever I'm feeling if I'm not close enough.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
see-
the way I've kind of approached it a little bit.
I've played with that a bit. The problem is
Okay.
the distances are too great.
Hmm.
So the
Okay.
rotation ends up becoming farther.
Okay. Yeah.
And then watching guys like Farad and DiPiazza and
Mhm.
some of these maniacs, I'm noticing it's very little motion.
Yeah.
You know, it's really,
Yeah. Economy of motion. I remember
Yeah.
seeing not a guitarist kind of thing, but if you ever watch Charlie Parker,
Mhm.
you know, just visually, it's just like
he's just standing there blowing.
economy of motion. It's just accuracy and just great technique.
Yeah, and you know, if when I see somebody with their fingers flailing around, or they're not using, or they have their fourth like this, first
Yeah.
off, don't do that. God.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll see people kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, and they're just slow.
Yeah.
It's the speed isn't there, but if you can do this thing, we've talked about technique a ton on here, getting this whole relaxed
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I was talking to a teacher friend of mine about this whole left arm thing, and I said, you should be relaxed from your left ear down.
Okay. Nice.
And he said that he's always taught from the shoulder, and I'm like, well, your neck gets stiff
Hmm.
if this is wrong. I said, so ear down.
You're down. I think you have an ear-hand connection too, so that's
Absolutely.
kind of cool.
Yeah, so you want it like this, and if you can keep everything close and keep that
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
great. Yeah,
Nice.
that's where that is. Now, I do watch Anthony Jackson play. Sometimes his fingers go way out,
Okay.
but I notice it's because he's got 2 or 3 or 4 strings sounding.
So he's trying to
In-
avoid muting possibly.
He's basically leaping over.
Yeah.
So he's kind of, I heard it called a bridge once, where you're kind of,
Yeah.
you know, if I want this and this,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's annoying and it looks silly, but it works.
Works.
You
Yeah.
know, organ.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I've
the
seen a
only-
lot of Victor Wooten. He can do a lot with the harmonics too.
Yeah, he gets a.
Yeah.
He goes, what's that? Space does not respond like my fretless. So yeah, so there's this whole thing. Reaching over works if you need to miss the strings. I think. If
Yeah.
you're skipping strings.
Yeah.
Otherwise, keep them down and like I said, do the Charlie
Yeah.
Parker.
Keep them down. Yeah, minimal movement. Now, sometimes if you tap, you can also maybe get a little bit further
Mm-hmm.
away and just kind of attack the string, something
the-
like that. But
Yeah, and the interesting thing I found, guitar takes more effort to tap than bass
yeah,
does.
yeah, I think that's true.
Because it's close, this bass is not as low as I'd like it, but my other instruments are insanely low. It's actually much easier. It takes very little to,
Yeah,
but when I've tried guitar, it's like, really? Come on.
yeah, yeah. And actually, you know, the higher up the strings are, the harder it is. So, I mean, the thinner the strings or the higher the sound. So it may have something to do with that. But yeah, you know, but down here, it's just easy as pie down
Well, you
here.
know, I've played a bunch of Chapman stick,
Ah,
and the high strings are, he always does an unusual gauge sets, but they're very flexible.
okay.
And every Chapman stick is split, you know, in 2 halves.
Yeah.
So the high side, you can run it hotter. So you're letting the amp do a lot of it because
Okay.
you're not going to have much volume
Yeah.
from the velocity of your finger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But having, yeah, super flexible string
Yeah.
and then enough gain just on that part, you know?
Yeah, and then that's one thing I try to work towards in some of the playing that's maybe like quicker passages and things is tapping without picking.
Hmm.
And even just getting a little ghosted note because
Yeah.
so it's there, but it really sounds good if you're not kind of hit over the head with the same volume on every single note
Right.
on a bebop head or something, you know,
Yeah.
just like ghost a few notes and
Mhm.
and get some variety in the sound. It kind of eases it up and loosens it up. a
Yeah,
little bit.
I mean, ghosting is, for bass players, is vital,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah,
You know, because if you're doing, okay, yawn, but if you're going, God, now I can't even think. Yeah, more interesting instead of,
yeah,
it puts some propulsion
yeah, yeah.
into it. So yeah, I'll do that sometimes.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think playing time too with just the left hand, I think is an important skill to gain
oh yeah,
as well. You know, even if it's a simple slurring sort of thing like a hammer on, that needs to take place in time. You know,
Mhm.
so a lot of times the right hand kind of gets there with folks, and then once they go to play a slur, then the rhythm
it's
gets
disjointed.
disjointed. Yeah,
Well, it's funny, you and I both studied upright bass,
Mhm.
studied classical bass,
yeah,
and teaching slurring is a lot of it.
Yeah.
They spend a lot of time,
yeah.
learning how to,
Mhm.
how to do the slurs and move. And it's not taught so much on these instruments, which I think is
Yeah.
odd.
Yeah, it is. And if you listen to like Matheny, which I think every guitarist should, or
Mhm.
any musician or any person in the world,
Yeah.
for that matter. But the phrasing and how he interprets just a line, you know, for a variety of volumes and slurring
Mhm.
but it all works in a specific rhythm,
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah. He tends to think, I know I've talked to a lot of guitar players about sort of the harmonic structure that he creates, which is astonishing.
yeah,
Let's be honest. But there is not so much rhythmic, but feel structure that's unique to every song. You know it's
Yeah.
Matheny,
yeah,
but there is a certain thing that just gives it a certain feel,
yeah,
which is really incredible that there's that much. And he's thought about it.
yeah, yeah.
I,
I think the level of detail he gets into is really pretty
yeah.
incredible.
And on all of this, I was watching. There's a thing on YouTube called Playing for Change,
Okay.
and they'll take a famous musician and a big song,
Mm-hmm.
and then have players from all over the world do it, and then they edit it together. And really cool. And this
Yeah.
would be people you've never heard of, and then famous people. And I love watching these. But there was latest one I saw was Jackson Brown's "Doctor My Eyes."
Mm-hmm.
Great tune. It's
Yeah.
a really old tune now.
Yeah.
And it's him and the great Lee Sklar
Ah,
sitting playing together, and then there's all these
Session
musicians
basis, yeah.
and I'm watching Lee Sklar's left hand.
Okay.
So look up the tune "Doctor My Eyes," and the bass part is kind of,
Yeah.
watching him play it. It's he's got his hand basically on the strings, right?
Yeah.
And you can watch him kind of lifting just a little
Yeah.
instead of, okay, that's nice enough.
Yeah. Because you get a little flesh on it, and then you end up changing it a little bit.
It's just a little bit, and you're muting just
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
I do that playing fretless a lot,
Okay.
especially to control the envelope of the note.
Yeah.
Because I can hit a note, and really control how quick.
Yeah.
And my fretlesses tend to be, they sustain forever.
Right.
2-3 minute long sustain. It's kind of nuts.
Sometimes you can get a bit of swell too.
Exactly. You can hit a note, you know, kind of take it down and then let off again.
Yeah.
And it's just a little
Well, control. Yeah.
and that's just using your finger on the string. But
Yeah.
watching him do this kind of, instead of, it's subtle, boy, does it work.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah. So
Nice.
find Playing for Change. Watch all the videos. They're
Yeah.
really incredible.
Yeah. And then, you know, guitars we can mute on this side, and yeah, we can do that kind of mute here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do all that. So
Yeah, so yeah, bass players, you know, we've got the, you know, you can use your thumb back here. I do that a lot because it's just
yeah.
cool. Works great with a pick. You can,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you can go really dead.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
A real percussive sound. Yeah, I mean, there you go. There's a few years worth of practice right there.
Exactly.
Just working those techniques out.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And let us know what you're working on and what questions you might have about some of these things. And we should mention that you've got a cable company.
I do have a company called Instrument Audio.
Yeah.
And I do custom cables, do custom instrument wiring. I'm working on a new preamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really cool. The prototype sounds amazing.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, so all kinds of fun stuff.
Awesome. Awesome. So remember to subscribe and like
Please.
and leave a comment. Let us know what you'd like to hear about. And we'd be glad to talk about it.
Yeah, don't forget, hit the bell down there. I never get it right. It's down over there.
Yeah.
Hit the bell so that you get the notifications when we have put up another one of these.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, John.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I will see you all in the next one, or we will see you all in the next one.
See you next time.